Week 6 college football breakdown here. Game day is going to be in Lawrence, Kansas this Saturday. This is coming into the year. If you would have said this could be the matchup of the weekend, people would have looked at you like you had four eyes. Nevertheless, we've got TCU traveling to Lawrence to take on the undefeated Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas might be undefeated, still not getting much love in this matchup. TCU is a 6.5-point road favorite. That's down from 7 from earlier in the week. Very high total here at 69. We'll start with the total. TCU's offense is fantastic. They can create explosive plays, as we saw last week against Oklahoma, and really as we've seen all year. I mean, Max Duggan's arm is his big asset for that team. He's got a lot of weapons on the outside that are also a big part of that, vertical passing game. Kendry Miller, DeMercado, they got good running backs that have broken off multiple, chunk runs this year, and Duggan's good with his legs. There's really not a lot to, dislike about this TCU offense. Yeah, I think they're pretty dependable along their offensive line as well. In theory, this is a game where Max Duggan should have a career day because, Kansas' secondary is no good. Simple as that. Teams like West Virginia, Houston, even Duke to some extent have been able to have success throwing the ball on this Kansas team. So I really wouldn't expect Max Duggan to face much of a resistance here. That being said, there's two things Kansas has done really well defensively this year, and very important things. A, they've really stopped the run well. I mean, they totally dominated Iowa State in the run game last week. That Iowa State offensive line is no slouch. So, being that good against the run, and that's really kind of remain consistent throughout this season for Kansas, and they've gotten more pressure on the quarterback than in my best dreams I could have ever imagined. 4 sacks against Houston, 5 sacks last week against Iowa State. I mean, they really dominated that game up front against Iowa State. Kansas's defense is somewhat boom or bust, I guess, in my opinion. I think TCU will be able to create explosive plays, but they could face some resistance in the run game. Kansas offensively, it's a good system, and this is where I'm going to kind of get to my point on the total here. For a total at 69, there's a lot that has to go right, and one of the things I look at with totals, obviously, is pace. Kansas is an extremely slow-paced team. If you watch them, and their objective in this game, probably even more so, going up against a really explosive offense, keep Duggan and keep all those playmakers off the field. It's kind of what they did last week against Iowa State. I mean, they were going at a snail's pace in that game. So while I get Kansas look good offensively, they can run the football. Jalen Daniels doesn't throw the ball a lot, but when he does, he is pretty effective in that department. And, I think TCU, we haven't really seen it up to this point because who they've played and just kind of how some of these games have played out. I think you probably would have seen this more if Dylan Gabriel would have stayed healthy, but I think I think they are vulnerable in parts of their defense. They've been good against the run, but other than their number one corner, I don't like that secondary. I think they can get beat up front as well. So that's probably something that's going to more show throughout the course of the season, and I'll be waiting to either play them over or go against them. I'm not going to bet the under because yes, both of these teams actually should be able to move the ball, and there is a chance that TCU just repeatedly takes advantage of Kansas's secondary weakness, but the pace is just not going to be there. So I see a lot of people who like this over, and I get it, but I'm just saying the margin for error is going to be small. It doesn't mean that it won't come through. It's just not really a risk that I'm willing to take. We're going to find out a lot about, Kansas's defense because on paper and analytics, they're terrible. But that hasn't really necessarily played out as you would think. I mean, they looked good last week against Iowa State. They've looked good at times against Houston. They didn't look good against West Virginia, but they won the game. I'm interested to see. I mean, this is a major step up from kind of what they've faced because of how multiple TCU is. I don't know. I mean, I could see a world in where Kansas can get some early stops and really just control this game from start to finish. But on the other hand, Max Duggan could torch this Jayhawk defense through the air. So ultimately kind of contrasting styles, not really a game I'd want to bet, but a good game to watch. All right, guys, before we get out of here, I know you see the shirt right here, going with the Miami Vice theme today. If you're looking for some new golf apparel, head over to proud90.com. Unique but very comfortable polos. It's colder weather coming. They've also got hoodies and quarter zips as well. Proud 90's got all your golf apparel needs, so browse their selection. If you see anything you like at checkout, use code Fordham. It's going to get you 15% off your order. That's code Fordham at proud90.com is going to get you 15% off your order. Support me, support Proud 90. The rest of the information will be in the description below.